Now, I'm pleased to say we're joined by Party Chair Kevin Hollinrake. Kevin, morning to you. Thank you so much. Plenty to talk about. I wonder if just response to what we heard from Thomas's report and that sort of idea of expanding the use of MDMA to help veterans suffering from PTSD.
Well, I haven't read the report, and I only got the last piece of this particular item. But listen, of course, people with PTSD, particularly people, our service personnel, who've done a wonderful job for us, we've got to support them any way we can. I know one thing we have to do in terms of people with mental health conditions is get them back to work principally, which is why we've got a plan to reform welfare, because I think people's mental health tends to improve when you're in a place of work. So there'll be different courses of treatment for different individuals in different circumstances. Where you've got serious cases like that, of course, you've got to make sure we're using best practice.
Thank you for that, Kevin. Look, the Prime Minister remains in peril, in some difficulty. You've called for him to resign. Now, he says he didn't mislead the House. He's satisfied with the response that you've heard from the Prime Minister.
Well, he's definitely misled the House. There's no question
not definitely.
about it.
Why do you say definitely?
Because he's changed his tune so many times. He said quite clearly to the House and to the press conference on the 4th of February that Peter Mandelson had cleared the security checks. But that's not the case, was it? He failed them. So how can you say he's not misled the House?
But he didn't know.
But OK, you might say he's unintentionally misled the House. And I'm not saying he's intentionally misled it, although there are people who might say he has. But there's no doubt, in my view, he's misled the House. Now, there are only two things that could happen. Either one, he has lied, so he's done it intentionally, or he's done it unintentionally because he's clueless about the actual circumstances. So he's been recklessly negligent in terms of his handling of this crisis. I think we need to take a step back from all this in terms of the reason he's in this situation on Mandelson is because of his poor judgment in the first place of appointing him. This is a person who's resigned in disgrace twice from government or been sacked, and Keir Starmer wanted his man, or Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff, did. So this is another crisis, a self-inflicted crisis by the Prime Minister, and we've seen U-turn after U-turn, I think 15 or 16 U-turns because of his poor judgment. That's the reason we think he should resign, because he's not the right person to lead the country.
Now, there are some events next week which will give us maybe a bit more knowledge. We're going to hear from the former Permanent Private Secretary at the Foreign Office, Philip Barton, and we're going to hear from Morgan McSweeney as well. What's the Conservative position on that? You're going to wait and see what you've heard before your next move? Obviously, Parliament will be rising pretty soon. Well,
we led the way on this all the way through. I think it was in September last year that Kemi Badenoch came to the House in Prime Minister's questions and interrogated the Prime Minister, which led to Peter Mandelson being sacked. So since which we have forced the government to reveal the information around Peter Mandelson about his appointment and then what happened around it. They still haven't complied with the parliamentary motion, the humble address around doing that, and we're keen to make sure all that information comes to light. But as more information does come to light, such as next week with Philip Barton, as you say, Morgan McSweeney giving evidence, then we'll judge the situation as it occurs. So, but I think it's fair to say the Prime Minister is in serious trouble over this. We think he will resign sooner or later, not just because of this. Ultimately, you resign in politics from that position because you lose the confidence of your own side.
Right.
And I think increasingly you're seeing people like Graham Stringer, Jonathan Brash, Sarah Champion have questioned the ability of the Prime Minister to govern this country. And I think at that point in time, your time is near to the end.
Right, well, you've had a good go at them. Let's move on to another topic now, if you don't mind. Today, the time for the assisted dying bill to get through the Lords has run out. We heard from Kim Leadbitter a little earlier, I don't know if you saw that interview, expressing how disappointed she is. What's your voting record on this, and where do you stand on where we are now?
Well, I'm with the 80% of the general public when asked whether I'm in favour of a choice when it comes near the end of your life, when you've got a diagnosis, which means you may be facing a difficult death, that you should be able to make a choice within that last 6 months of your life as diagnosed. So this was passed in the House of Commons. 80% of the public say they want this.
Yep.
They elect people in their local constituencies like me to then go to Parliament and carry out the will of the public. Now, this went through the House of Commons by about 23 votes, I think it was.
It did lessen in the final vote,
It did
didn't it?
lessen, and of course it's important we listen to the facts and listen to the debate, and there's lots of debate on this as it went through. But I think for the House of Lords, it's not an elected house, to frustrate the wish of the majority of people for this to go through, I think is wrong. So I think it seems pretty clear that it won't pass today, which means it's finished for this term, this session, as we call it. There'll be a new session starting after the 14th of May when the King makes his speech. And so from that point onwards, this bill could return to Parliament and it could proceed much more rapidly. And I'd like to see that.
You'd like to see that happen. And frustration then with the House of Lords, because obviously this will lead to all those kind of discussions about reform of the Lords and making sure that the revising body, which has its purpose, isn't able to stymie the will, as you say, of the elected House.
Well, listen, there is some very compelling, constructive debate in the House of Lords, and there's some decent people there trying to make sure we don't pass a law that's not fit for purpose. But there are also some people that are determined to stop it at all costs. And I think that's wrong. I think when a House of Commons decides to do something, as you say, the House of Lords is a revising chamber, it's not there to prevent legislation going through. So I think it'll come back to the Commons, and if the Commons passes it again, as I think it will, the members of Parliament, then it's quite clear to the Lords that no, whatever you've said now, this law should go through.